Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. I'm your host, N64 Josh, and we got a very special episode today. We got Thunder Stash Gaming joining us. What's going on?
What's up? I am very happy to be here. I'm excited to talk video games with you, talk Switch. A lot of exciting things going on, so yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
I am as well, and I think we met through Nintendo Prime. And I've spent a couple episodes hanging out with you on his podcast, and you're a regular host on that show, correct?
Yes, I am. A lot of fun, and we love having you on always.
Yeah, I think the last time I'm having issues with some of the online services. My camera was all janky. I think next time I'm just going to come as a black screen and. just be an avatar, because at least the audio still works. So
yeah,
we'll just
audio
see what
always
happens
works
there.
great.
yeah, not the video for some reason. So, well, I love doing these shows, getting to know other creators. Give a quick shout out, just where people can find and connect with you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on YouTube at Thunder Stash Gaming. And that's where I focus on reviewing both new and retro video games. So whether it's a nostalgic look back at the classics or an in-depth review of the latest releases, the channel covers it all. I have been gaming for, look at this, I'm 39 now. I've been gaming since I was 3. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But I started with, my older brothers. I'm the youngest of 3. So literally since the late 80s. So if you think about it, I've been gaming for over 35 years, nonstop. Never stopped. I never thought it wasn't cool. There was never any gaps in life where I was like, oh, I'm not into it anymore. It's always been a huge part of my life. Really, I would say it's very much part of my DNA. So yeah, you can find me there on YouTube though. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, or X if you want to call it that, as Thunder Stash Gaming. So yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm active all the time.
All the places. I love it. What shirt are you wearing right now?
Oh, I gotta say, this is Mario's Time Machine, and
love it.
To me, this is like one of the best box arts ever. Obviously, it's not the best game. But I mean, look at this. You got Abe Lincoln on the box art. It's like, what? What were they thinking? Mario's in a time machine, and yeah, this box art is just so good. And of course, for us who grew up in the 80s and 90s, the importance of box art then versus now. Back then it had to sell the game. Nowadays, you go on the internet, you read up on it, you watch the trailer, you watch gameplay. And that's obviously something that we couldn't do back then with technology. So that box art had to be real good to catch people's eyes back in the day.
Absolutely. Have you ever seen the box art documentary?
I have not. I would love to see that, though, because legitimately, huge fan of box arts.
It's the reason I'm on IMDb, because of that documentary. So,
wow.
It's the last I checked, it was on Amazon Prime. Like,
I have Prime.
Yeah, but then there's another service that somehow puts ads on videos.
Tubi.
Yeah, there you go.
I see it. I have Tubi as well.
Okay, so it'll run even without Tubi, I guess. You'll just have ads in between. But it originally aired in Canada. And my buddy Rob, who directed it, was like, hey, you're on IMDb now because you were on.
So cool. And
so he interviewed me at E3 2017, and I talked about the Super Mario Brothers 2 box art. So kind of fun little fact. And in fact, Rob is doing a Nintendo 64 quest right now where Rob and Jay is the main character, went and he was I think he had 2 weeks to try to get every N64 game, because the Nintendo Quest, the first one, he had to get every NES game in a month without
Oh, I've
using.
seen that.
Yeah, so that's the same
Yeah.
guy. That's Robin J. And so
okay.
N64 Quest is, I believe, if people have been listening to the show for a while, Rob's come on and talked about, like, talked about it. I think they're kickstarting right now. So, but this time, whatever they collected, they're reselling to put to charity. I believe is how it's working out. So, they're raising money, I believe, for Alzheimer's or something like that. So, quick little plug for Nintendo 64 Quest. You guys go check it out. So,
That sounds awesome. I will definitely have to check that out. And, I got to say, I was at E3 2017 as well.
were you really?
I was. I had such a great time. My cousin and I went. He's a couple years older than me. And it was my first E3. And of course,
Same.
growing up as a kid, you always want to go, right?
Yep.
It's a bucket list item.
Oh yeah.
If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, we used to wait in such anticipation for the E3 Nintendo Power or the EGM E3 to come out, the magazine, because that's when and where you learn about all the new games coming out.
Right.
But I had a great time, and we partied every day after E3 across the street with Devolver Digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, were you over there?
Oh yeah.
Dude, okay. I wonder if we ran into, because we were there all 3 days.
Okay.
And okay, this is going to be a funny story. Now I will say I don't normally do this, but let me tell you. So we go to E3. We both are working at Loan Depot Mortgage Company. I worked there for 10 years. He still works there. So we took PTO because we both want to do this as a bucket list thing. And so we're not with the press or anything, of course. This point in my life, I had done nothing with YouTube. And we saw that there was a party over there, and we saw the kegs being rolled in.
Oh yeah.
We're like, oh, what's going on, And we saw that you had to have a certain color lanyard to get in.
Okay.
And I told my cousin, I said, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm like, we got to act as if you're going to just walk right in like you belong here. And then I want you to yell to me from outside the gate to come in. And I'm just going to try and come in and see if it works. What's the worst that can happen? The security guy is going to say, let me see your pass, right? No big deal. And I walk away. Except that didn't happen. We got in. And then we started talking with, I think the owner, was the owner of Devolver there? The creator?
So the people I spoke with were like YouTubers and community managers and stuff like that. I think her name was, I want to say her name was Kelsey. She was a kind of a big retro game YouTuber, and then ended up was working for them. So I know they were hated by E3 for being there.
Oh my God. That was the highlight personally of E3 for us. And I remember they had the Volkswagen.
Yep.
And that was fun. Going in there and hanging out. They had the Poly Mega, if I recall, the Poly Mega arcade games that you could play.
Okay.
And it was a blast. They gave us shirts, Devolver Digital E3 shirts that I still have somewhere, but because when I took pictures with them, I remember talking with people from Niche Gamer.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that, but I talked with some people there. What we told everyone we did, because everyone asked, what do we do? Okay. So I told my cousin, we got to come up with something. And I just came up with it out of thin air. I'm like, we're going to tell everybody that we're from ESRB and that they send us every year because we're the only young single guys that don't have families. No. So they send us every year. And it totally worked, dude. It totally worked. And people were asking us, what's it like working at ESRB? I'm like, oh my God. So, it was interesting because it felt like a movie in a sense. Yeah. And I swear to you, we had so much fun there. And I remember telling my cousin, because he games a lot, but not as much as he'd like to. But I remember telling them, I'm like, dude, Devolver's really cool. They do some really funny E3 skits.
Oh yeah.
Is that they're just a cool company, man. It's they make really cool games, and I said, tell you, they're up and coming. And of course, here we are, 2024, and they just keep banging them out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like they're definitely going up. So yeah, I just wanted to share that story. That was the only E3 I was at, and had an absolute blast because of that party. We went all 3 days.
So, did you play Battlefield at that E3?
I didn't.
Okay.
No.
So Battlefield, like, where it went back to being like the old, like the old school, right? Was first shown, like that was the first playable like demo was at that E3. And Titanfall, I want to say Titanfall 2 maybe was getting some hype around that. I just remember there being a giant statue, but I went to 2017 and 2019 and they're far enough apart now that like they kind of blend together a little bit.
Yeah.
But we played Battlefield, and I remember, you know, they've got all the devs are walking around, and I get into a 1v2, and I empty a clip into a guy and drop him, and then switch to my pistol and drop the other guy, and I went and teabagged him. And the guys that were there they were like, "Yo, did you just team?"
Dude, that's awesome.
I just went 1v2. Of course I did.
That is great.
And so they were just cracking up. Like we had some great laughs and stuff. It was just yeah, it was an incredible time. Like just amazing. Like I think my first show before that was Screw Attack, like the Screw Attack convention in like Dallas or something like that. So
oh, okay. Yeah, I always enjoyed their content growing up.
Right.
Their top 10s, and yeah, they were good, man. I enjoyed them a lot. I didn't know they had a convention.
I had hardly, like, I didn't even know much about them other than I'd heard their names. And then we got in, I was part of a podcast that got it, like, we got in to cover it. And, you know, so people are like, what is his name? Jimquisition or something like that. They were like,
yeah,
there was this massive line. And I'm like, who is that? Because I don't watch content any, like once I started creating content, I stopped watching it because it was like I'm just too busy to sit and consume it. And so I had no clue who Jimquisition is, and there's this massive line of people that were super excited to go see him. But anyway,
I know his name. I've seen him like on YouTube. I've never watched anything.
He stands up like a dictator and like gives his thoughts and opinions, and it's super funny. Like,
oh, interesting. I might actually like that. Sounds funny.
It's he looks like the Penguin or something. Like he's just kind of like an old school looking villain. So
cool.
I could, yeah, I don't know. Just, I mean, again, some people love it, some people hate it, whatever. Like I don't have a lot of time to sit and watch it, but well, let's continue back in time, since you're wearing Mario's time machine here. And you said 3 years old. Like,
yep.
What was the first controller to grace your fingers?
The NES.
Love it.
Yeah, first game I played was Super Mario Brothers.
Okay, all right, and that's hooked what from they that point taught on. Me.
Yeah, and you know how it is. Like, you grow up with siblings, you have to share the controller. Pass it around, and it was very occasional that I got to play when my brothers were playing. It was very much an afterthought, right? To hand me the controller to see if you want to try.
Right.
So when they'd go to school, that's when I'd get my gaming in.
I see.
So my middle brother is 3 years older than me. My oldest is 5. And so that is when they had taught me how to play. And that's when I was able to then start playing while they're at school and get really good. And from that point forward, I swear to you, from that point forward, absolutely hooked. Like, go to bed dreaming about video games, hooked. Talk about it all the time. Can't wait to go to the video game rental store. We had this place down the street called Act One Video. And you know how it is. Like, if you had a local rental store video game, we had a Blockbuster down the street, we had a Gamers, which ended up becoming our favorite, and then Act One Video. They closed, I think, in the very early 90s. But you know how it is when you go rank games and you scan the shelves and you know all the box arts. You know exactly where they are, and you can immediately spot when there's a new game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, something new came in. And I always mention this when I'm talking anytime with younger gamers. It's like, back in the day, you don't know when a new game's coming out. You're lucky if you know the month or quarter that a game's releasing. And that's even if you know anything about it. Like, legitimately, we learned, and I'm sure you did too, about Super Mario Brothers 3 through The Wizard, the movie.
Oh yeah.
We all had to ask each other, like, is this game real or is it just made for the movie?
It was like the trailer of the movie is kind of where we, if I remember correctly, that's where we first saw.
Yeah.
Like, I remember shows like Entertainment Tonight being like, you know, the new Nintendo game is going to be has been announced in the trailer, you know, like that's, or the local news or whatever, you know, like it wasn't just I mean, again, we were pretty young back then. So like just trying to remember that. But like, The Wizard for sure was like, what was it? 90-minute commercial for Nintendo games. So
yeah, it was. And of course that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't get that back in the day. So
right.
Like, this is really cool actually to get a 90-minute Nintendo commercial. But yeah, that is when I started, 3 years old. The first game I ever bought with my own money, birthday money, right, was The Legend of Zelda for NES.
Okay.
Mom took me to Target, and I remember my older brother came with us, and she said, you pick out whatever game you want for your birthday. And I was so excited to finally be included in the discussion, right? Because prior to, they would decide, my two older brothers, what game, and my input didn't matter because I'm the youngest brother. So I choose Zelda. My brother Richard, my oldest brother, he interjects, "Mom, don't let him get this game. He's gonna hate it. It's so hard, and you have to read in it all the time, and he's gonna get lost, and then he's gonna ask you to return it, Mom, and you won't be able to return it because the box will already be open, and you know the return policy is once it's opened, you can't return it." And I'm like furious inside because I want this game because I'd seen them play it.
Right.
And I sat back and watched, and I'm like watching them, and I'm thinking of ideas of what they could do to get past this part,
right.
But they don't ask me, right? And so I couldn't wait to get this game. So I'm like, I want to beat this game and be like, yeah, what's up now? Like, you guys are idiots. So, long story short, my mom said I couldn't get it.
Oh no.
I was upset. I was upset, man. But, as a kid, like, you also have to be thankful that you can even go buy a video game, that I'm even being taken to buy one. That was a big deal. So I chose a game I didn't want, which was Adventure Island, which is not a bad game. It's not Zelda, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I go home, I play it. My mom asked me probably about an hour and a half later. So she's like, "So what do you think of the game?" I said, "It's okay. Like, it's all right." She's like, "But you really wanted Zelda, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I really did. I really did. And I'm not going to ask you to return it." So she said, "All right, get in the car. We're going to see if we can return this." I'm like, but it's open. But, it's open. She's like, "I know. We're going to try. We're going to try." I go, "Okay, cool." So we get back in the car. Mom talks to the manager at Target in the electronics section. And they okayed it. I don't remember the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. All I know is obviously the outcome was I got Zelda. And that's my favorite video game series of all time.
Okay.
And I did, of course, I ended up beating the game. It took a long time. I didn't beat it till I was 7 or 8. But I remember the morning I beat it. I remember waking up at like 3 a.m. on a Saturday. and going into my brother's room where the TV was, because this is back when we didn't have TVs in every bedroom. It was a big deal to get a TV in a kid's room, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you had the TV in the family room, and if you had one in your room, that was a huge deal. So there was one in my
you were a
brother's
rich
room
kid.
for all three of us. Yeah, exactly. Just like Back to the Future. You know, like you don't have two TVs in your house. But I remember going in there at like 3 a.m. And the reason I woke up so early was because I was so close to beating it and I knew it and I just couldn't sleep.
I love that.
Yeah, so I sneak in, I turn the volume down enough so I can hear it, but it's really low so my brother doesn't wake up, right?
Yeah.
And I remember he ends up waking up around like 7 o'clock and he sees where I'm at. Like he hears the music from level 9. And you know, the dungeon music is unique in level 9. And he's like, you know, oh my God, like where are you? I'm like, I'm at the end, dude. I'm at the last dungeon. He's like, what? And both my brothers came in and, you know, watched me play, watched me beat it. And it was a special moment, obviously.
For sure.
I remember it like perfectly to this day. So yeah, that's a little old school story. That was the first game I ever bought, Legend of Zelda. And so, yeah.
I love that. That was the first Nintendo game I ever played.
Really?
Yeah. I was swimming. I've told it on here a few times, but I was swimming at my grandma's house. She lived on a small lake in Western Washington, and my step cousin was there and he had the Nintendo, and I remember he turned on Zelda and I could see, like, I'd been playing it, like all I had known up to that point was Atari or the arcade. And so like, I'm sure I knew of Nintendo, right? And what probably saw it in stores and things like that. But like, I remember like turning it on, standing in front, and like, I'm like, what is this rectangle controller? Right? It's not a single stick and a button. And like, just seeing the way the sword flashed was like so magical. It was like, yo, this is the arcade at home. Like, what? And my mom is screaming, like, get back outside, go swim. And I'm like, you know, until she finally had to come and get me and like pull me off of the thing. But I was just like,
yep.
But it wasn't a game I was allowed to have because it had magic. And so like,
okay.
Yeah. So, you know, I had to hide the booklet for Super Mario Brothers because it said Bowser used black magic to change the to change the toads into bricks. And so I was like, this can't be, I won't be able to play this game if
my family was super strict too.
Yeah.
Like super strict when it came to that stuff. And without getting into too much of it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And so thankfully I was able to play Zelda, but there was definitely a lot of games I was not allowed to play. And if I was going to play it, it required a lot of salesmanship. A lot.
There is no better salesman than a child of the 80s trying to convince their mother of something. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Especially if she'd heard anything from Dr. Dobson, you were hosed. Like,
oh yeah, if there was anything on the news about it, there's no way. Like, obviously with Mortal Kombat, that was a big one with C-SPAN.
Yes. Yeah,
and that was a whole ordeal trying to rent that. I remember renting Sega CD once from Gamers with my brothers, and we were trying to talk my dad into it because he took us. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when dad takes you, you got a better chance of getting something you're not allowed to get. Yeah, it's usually when you can rent an R-rated movie. If, you know, you don't say anything to your mom kind of thing.
Right, yeah. You gotta keep it on the down low.
You have to, like, anytime she'd go out of town, it's like, hey, can we watch Beverly Hills Cop? But if mom was there, you can't watch it because Eddie Murphy's saying the F word way too many times.
Right.
I remember trying to rent Night Trap, and, you know, we really wanted to rent it for obvious reasons at that age, and we couldn't. Dad's like, there's no way. I will never hear the end of this from your mom. Mm-hmm. And then she'll never go out of town. And then we'll never be able to rent anything that you guys want to rent. I'm like, okay, I see the big picture here.
Yep, that makes sense.
We'll pass on that. But I ended up picking it up, of course, for Switch.
Yeah.
the 25th anniversary edition.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Not a good game, but it was fun. It's still cool though. It's a cool experience.
Right. Yeah. Definitely some. I mean, yeah, it was all over the news. You couldn't. You knew about the game only not because of marketing, but because of the press. So
Exactly. And if a game got negative press in that sense, as a kid, you want to play it.
right.
It's like, oh, that means I need to play this game.
Oh, Mortal
it's
Kombat,
cool.
exactly. It was like I literally, I don't understand the thinking back then where it was like the adults all thought that like these games were going to make us go crazy. And it was like, no, this is just super cool stuff that like, you know, I don't know. I didn't go out thinking I was going to pull somebody's head off and their spine would come out with it. Like that is make believe, you know?
Yeah,
But-
exactly. I know. And that was part of the salesmanship with my mom, trying to talk her into it. And of course we, told her that, hey, the Super Nintendo version, doesn't have blood.
Just
So
sweat.
that's just another reason to let us rent that one. I mean, it's not
Right.
that realistic. The Sega one I can understand, Mom, but
Right.
Super Nintendo doesn't use no blood. So, maybe beat us in the middle. Let us rent this one.
Yeah, if you get to watch any of the like console wars or any of those documentaries, like watching Nintendo flip where they were in court, like we don't have blood in ours, judge, and then they just absolutely got taken to the cleaners with the sales, and then when 2 comes out, they're like, we are exactly like the arcade, like we're as
Yeah.
bloody and gory as can be. It's just funny. Just so funny because it's just whatever the PR needs from him at that time. You said
Yeah.
something about going into your brother's room and getting the volume just right, and I think it's worth pointing out, especially for anybody that didn't experience this as a kid in the 80s. And I just saw a meme of this. Right, remember the movie A Quiet Place? Right?
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
and he takes his son up into the mountains, and then they're coming back or to the waterfall, and they can actually converse or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're coming back, and there's that old guy, and his wife had been, like, I think killed by the monster, and then he just screams at the top of his lungs, and like John has to like run with his son and get away, right?
Yeah.
Well, the meme was like, it was John, and it said, "Me, a kid in the '80s, walking up to my TV to turn it on before my parents were awake." And then,
Oh, yeah.
and then it switched to the old guy. The picture, then the picture of the old guy underneath, and it's like my TV, because he's like, it never failed. My dad would have the TV up so loud the night before, and then I'd be like, power and volume down, like as hard and as fast as I could, like.
Yeah. There was a total strategy to it, and the strategies varied, right, depending on the model of TV that you're using.
Right.
Because if it's a turn knob, obviously it's going to be a lot easier to turn the volume down. But if it's a digital button, which that's usually what it was, yeah, you had one hand or one finger on the power and the other one on the volume down button. And then, like with the TV in my brother's room, I was able to turn it on and press the mute button and then turn it down. Because TVs back then, you could press the mute and it would show you the volume bar and show you where the volume's at in red. And I remember the text was green. So I could get the volume all the way down to like, 2 notches and then unmute it. And
Yes.
that was always the best strategy if, your TV allowed for that. But yeah, it was a big deal. Because that's how you're going to get some gaming in before people wake up and say that, hey, you can't do this right now. I need you to do this list of chores all day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or I had a 45-minute limit, so it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So we've talked a little bit of Zelda, NES. Any other notable titles on NES that really just kind of helped define your childhood?
Gosh, there's so many. I still have all of my NES games from when I was a kid. And even when I was a teenager, I was able to take advantage of Funko Land.
There you go.
And back in the day, they used to have that price sheet up at the front desk area where you check out. And I cannot tell you how many games there were that were under $1, which is insane. Because there's no way you're getting that. I'm talking like 39 cents, 79 cents.
Yeah.
And so I was able to, of course, get a lot of games that way as well. But when it comes to my overall collection, I think I have over 300 Nintendo cartridges. The ones that have probably the fondest memories, Maniac Mansion is a game that always comes to mind.
Okay.
And I think, as a kid growing up in the 80s, households didn't have computers like we do now. People started getting computers in the 90s, early to mid 90s. AOL came out. That's when things started to kind of change. And so playing Maniac Mansion on the NES was the only known way to play the game. We have a lot of great memories just playing that as kids growing up, where we're all like in the same room and we're saying, why don't you try doing this or you try doing that, and just trying to solve how to play that actual game and progress in it. That's one I'm a huge fan of. The DuckTales, of course. The moon theme will forever be ingrained in my head.
Yes. Okay. Now you're like Maniac Mansion. I heard of so many times, right? I was on Nintendo Power all the time. Like it felt like it was marketed very well, but
yeah, great cover on Nintendo Power.
Like next to Mario games, especially like Mario 2, Turtles and DuckTales were like,
oh yeah,
like I could play through DuckTales and then start it over again. And I could play through Turtles and start it over again. But outside of that, I didn't. A lot of times I would play a game one time and that was it.
I have a lot of games we played a lot. Contra, of course. Just Konami in general, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Castlevania 1, 2, and 3, Simon's Quest, Dracula's Curse. Absolutely love Castlevania games. And of course, all 3 Turtles. Have them all, played them a ton, absolutely love them. And then even games like Track and Field Part 2 specifically.
Okay.
We played that game so much because it's a 2-player game.
Right.
Playing Olympic events. And it really comes down to how fast can you smash the buttons, of course. It's a button masher for the most part. Tons of fun. Even a game that wasn't as popular, but Jackal on regular Nintendo.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah.
Yep.
So good. Konami, gosh. Part of me sometimes wonders if they might have peaked during the NES era.
Yeah.
They did great during Super, not as many games. Of course, we had Symphony of the Night and we had the Metal Gear, all the Metal Gear games, but
wasn't Turtles technically Konami?
Yeah, Ultra,
right?
Which is their brand that they came out with.
Yeah.
To bypass
Nintendo's restrictions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those fond memories, and then the games that we all talk about, right? The Marios 1, 2, and 3, the Zelda games. I look up behind me. Of course, the Mega Mans. Capcom just nailed it with the Disney games.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best use of a Disney license I've ever seen to this day. I don't think that'll ever be fixed. Double Dragons 1, 2, and 3. River City Ransom.
Yep.
Great one. There's so many, man. I absolutely love the regular Nintendo. Huge fan.
I'm somewhat envious of the fact that you got to play with your brothers. Like, I'm the oldest of 6, but I have the next 3 siblings were sisters who did not really game. Gaming wasn't a big, like, the NES was a family gift on Christmas morning from my aunt, and they were like basically screwed out of a present that morning. So I got Duck Hunt and Mario, and it was the Gray Zapper, and basically that aunt that saw me play Zelda that day, that summer day, I didn't even ask my parents for the Nintendo. I was like, this is not an option. Like it wouldn't even, you know.
Right.
So talk about the ultimate surprise. You see this big gift and it says to the family. So I, again, did not think for a second about and then all of a sudden I'm like, I own the NES. Like this is amazing. And my dad wouldn't hook it up till after we ate. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
Oh, classic. Yeah, because you always had to get the parents to hook it up.
yeah. Yeah, and then that was
They
like
would
the
just
last
never let
time.
you do it.
That was the last time that he hooked anything up, and I had to hook everything up going forward. Like he's like, I don't know how to do this stuff. So
We
But-
also got the NES for Christmas,
okay,
and very similar scenario. I think grandparents bought it. I was very young, of course,
mm-hmm.
but what a gift, man! What a gift, that's for sure. Anytime you get a video game console as a Christmas present,
Yeah.
as a kid, that's always going to be like a core memory you'll never forget.
Yeah, it was that and the SNES for me, and then even the GameCube. I wasn't a kid any longer, but the GameCube was, you know, my wife at that time went out, got every family member to buy some kind of peripheral. She saved all of her tips, and like, that's, you know, that's how I ended up getting every time we moved to the, like, go to the next house, go visit friends, go see somebody Christmas morning. Oh, there's Star Wars Rogue Squadron. There's I think Smash, I think Extreme G Racing. Here's another controller. Here's the save. Here's the memory cards. You know, just
That's great.
Like-
I love that. I camped out for the GameCube at Best Buy.
okay.
I was in high school. It was myself, my friend, Matt, Brandon, Reggie, and my cousin Jim. And he also had to open that
Oh,
morning at Best
okay.
Buy. We had so much fun. And from that point forward, we camped out for like every console. But that first one with GameCube was really special. After school, prior to the GameCube launching, we would go to Best Buy all the time. And I don't know if you did this as a kid, but as a teenager, we just go to Best Buy to just like go hang out and like check out the demos and like
Oh,
see
yeah.
what's new. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
You probably weren't going to buy anything, but you're just going there to hang out because it was fun. It was a good atmosphere. And I remember they had Rogue Squadron, of course, as the playable demo prior to the GameCube actually launching in the US. And so we'd go there like, I think the first week that demo came out, we might have been there every day after school to go play
Oh,
Rogue Squadron. And it was special, man. Because back then, and I want to think that even to this day, that game is still stunning.
oh, it is. It is. Yeah. And it's the GameCube era is kind of where I started to become somewhat of like I had the component cables for GameCube. Like I wanted to start seeing like, you know, I wanted things to look as good as possible. And I lost those cables somewhere along the way. It makes me so sad because they're not cheap now.
Were they the Nintendo ones or I think Monster came out with some too? Back then?
From my understanding, Nintendo's the only one that ever made them because it was a chipset that they had. I could be mistaken, but I had the actual Nintendo ones.
Yeah, I could be thinking of the Wii. I know the Wii had the Monster cable component.
Which was a lot easier to. That one's a way easier to find. It came with component cables, if I remember right. You know, I think now I use a HDMI adapter in the back of the Wii, and you're good to go. And ended up getting one for a game. I have one for GameCube as well. It's like 3D printed and has some, you know, has some guts on the inside. But just that progressive scan mode. You know, when I got my Sony
Exactly.
Wega, like it was like, oh my goodness, like you
Yeah.
know, it was not that huge of a difference. But back then,
It wasn't. And I bought a Sony Wega as well because I worked at Best Buy back in the day too when I was 17, 18. And of course we got employee discounts and you could just go up to any terminal throughout Best Buy any of the computer terminals, and you can just look up anything in the store, like anything you're interested in. You could just take the SKU, write it down, and then go to the terminal and see what the employee price is. And sometimes, occasionally, there would be a really steep discount on a TV. Like, you could have 10 Sony TVs, and 9 of them you get like a $50-$60 discount. But one of them, you get like a $500 discount.
Oh, wow.
You're like, whoa, what? What's this about? And then you start researching the TV and everything. That's how I ended up getting my first Sony Wega.
Yeah.
But yeah, the progressive scan didn't make a huge difference. I wanted it to. Of course, we had like a handful of games that you could play that was also in widescreen. Just, it didn't move the needle much.
No, but again, it was like, if you were into it, it was like you know, I remember like buying surround sound, like the whole deal. Like I wanted my games to, like, I was super bummed out that GameCube did not have digital, Dolby Digital.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Back in the day. I think it just had what was called DTS, I think, if I remember correctly, or Dolby 2 maybe.
DTS.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Dolby DTS. Yep.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it got to the point, like, I couldn't play Resident Evil at night. I was too freaked out by it. Like I'd only play it during the day.
I remember playing Resident Evil 4 on GameCube specifically. And that game, there was a point in that game where it got a little creepy. When you got to the later end of the game, when they're all you're inside the castle and they're all roped.
I've never played it.
Resident Evil 4?
No, I played the first one on GameCube, the remake, and I never played the fourth one.
You would love it.
I need to. I know there's a remake now, right?
Good.
So
I played it, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, you would love it. You would absolutely love it. I would say it's my favorite, easily my favorite Resident Evil.
A lot of people say that, for sure.
Yeah, so. I played them all. I played, even Code Veronica on Dreamcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which did end up on the GameCube, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, they got them all. Ended up getting. I think all of them came out, and of course we got the Resident Evil 0, which was a GameCube exclusive at the time.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was Resident Evil was like the way that you could combat, like, if you were having console wars with somebody, you were like, show me a game that looks better than this.
Yeah, exactly. And that was back when the whole Capcom 5 deal happened. If you remember that, it was like Beautiful Joe, PN03, Killer 7.
Remember
Resident
that one?
Evil 4,
Yep.
and then a game that got canceled that looked somewhat reminiscent of what a Kid Icarus could have looked like on GameCube.
Oh, interesting.
I remember that, and everyone wondered if this was a canceled Kid Icarus game.
Huh.
We still don't know to this day.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward a bit. Let's talk about the Switch. We're getting near the end of the Switch's life cycle. And I was like, I want to hear your 5 favorite games. And so what that's not an easy list to come up with. 5 games with a console that has so many stellar titles. And how'd you do?
Yeah, it's not easy. It never is. And I thought about it, the direction I wanted to go in, and what to me made the most sense. What was most logical as far as how I'm going to craft this list. And I think what you got to do is say, okay, this has to be exclusive Switch titles, in my opinion, right? Because if I can play a game on PlayStation and Switch, I don't want to make that into my top 5. Let's talk about the games you can only play on Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I disregarded the fact that, yeah, this might be more fun to play because I can play it portably. But there's just so many great Nintendo exclusives that this has to be a Nintendo exclusive list. And so with that said, the first title I went with is Super Mario Odyssey.
Okay. Now, are
And-
these in an order, or is it just 5? Like, if you were just picking 5, no particular order.
No particular order.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I got to go with Odyssey. And this game was so much fun from the get-go. And it was exciting because, we had Super Mario 64 that really revolutionized everything. And I was there for it before day one. I got to play 64 back in June. It was the weekend before 4th of July weekend. So June of 96, Gamers, the video game store I told you about that we'd rent games from, they got in the Japanese import of Nintendo 64. And I got to rent it the weekend before they put out the advertisement for it.
Oh.
The guy who was the manager at the time, his name's Jimbo. He knew all of us, my brothers, my parents, who we've been going there for years, right? He practically watched us grow up. And my dad and I went in there and he said, hey, he's like, you guys know about the Nintendo 64? I'm like, I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't know. Is it real? It's not much I know at the time. And he told us we had just got it in from Japan. He's like, I'm making the flyers right now, but we're not going to advertise it till Monday. Do you guys want to take it home for the weekend and give it a spin? I'm just like, whoa, what? And I was seriously like, I was like losing my mind, right?
Yeah.
I'm 12 years old at the time. And I remember asking like, well, how much is it to rent? He's like, don't worry about it.
Wow.
Because, that would be expensive.
For sure. Yeah.
If you're a kid, that's going to take, again, selling your parents on it.
Right.
Renting a console for however much it was going to be. So, long story short, we got to take it home. It was mind-blowing. Absolutely. Obviously, it was in Japanese. The two games was of course, Mario 64, and the other one was a F1 racing game called Human Grand Prix.
Okay, interesting.
Those were the games. I played Human Grand Prix a little bit, but I played obviously a lot of Mario 64, and jumping in the paintings, just mind-blowing, everything about it. Since then, though, right? Played Mario Sunshine day one. Didn't come close to capturing the feeling. And I know it's not going to, because the shift from 2D to 3D is just something very special that if you were there for it, again, it's a core memory now. You'll never forget what that was like. And so I knew I wouldn't get that feeling again. But with Mario Sunshine, I just didn't feel it on a variety of levels. I liked the game. I beat it. But I don't love it. Then Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 comes out, right? And I saw a lot of that magic being captured again.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the physics, right?
Yeah.
And God, the soundtrack. Soundtrack is so good. And so I saw us kind of turning back to that point, but at the same time with the Wii, you don't really have traditional controls, right? You still have the motion controls. You're still wagging the controller around here and there. Okay. So I'm starting to wonder, are we ever going to get something that feels like a continuation of Super Mario 64? And I really start to wonder, because think about it. Mario 64 comes out September of 96. Odyssey comes out in 2017.
Yep.
So 21 years later,
Yeah.
I'm like, we're back. We're back.
No doubt.
This is it. This is it. This feels like an extension. This feels like the sequel to Super Mario 64 that we never got. And that's why this game undoubtedly has to be on my list, because of everything they did so right. And the new things that they did, like with Cappy, being able to take control of other things, like being able to take control of the dinosaur. Was it
Yeah.
a T-Rex?
Yep, the T-Rex for sure.
So cool. And then being able to take control of the electrical current.
Yeah,
I was like,
become a spark.
this is crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then seeing Mario like interact in New Donk City with humans.
Right.
That's not something we had really seen before. Like him in an actual like real life location. Like you're in New York. This is interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see this in a Mario game. There's so many things like that, and then the variety. Just the environmental variety in this game. I think with Galaxy, there was variety, no doubt. But you're going from like galaxy to galaxy, and they're like almost like biomes, each galaxy. Mario 64, like when you jumped into a painting, you didn't have like the space in the background, outer space. Where with Galaxy, that was always present, the outer space. And in some way or another, you could see it in the background somewhere. And I think with Odyssey, like when you enter a world, that is the world you're in. And I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I really love that variety. And I think the thing that really brought me back was the end. Like, and I don't want to say, because there are people who probably have not played this, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but you know what I'm talking about, the end and how it all kind of tied back to 1996, right? I'm just like, oh God, you guys did it.
Well,
You
and not only
continued to wow
96,
me.
but 85.
Yeah, that's right. Totally. And even some of the costumes or like the outfits you can get in the game. I mean, one of them specifically, again, I won't say what it is, but a holiday themed one. I'm just like, this is so cool.
Yep.
You know, like usually I don't care about that stuff. It's a nice bonus. Sometimes it's cool, but for the most part, I'm like, whatever. But putting that on and like running around and playing the game a little bit, especially because there is more stuff to do after that if you want more of a challenge. And so doing it in that costume, I'm like, this is really cool, man. They really just knocked out of the park. What are they going to do next? Is my thought immediately.
Yeah, and then they did nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
Which gets me excited though.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, they've had so long to cook. I mean, and we know that Nintendo said this as long as they've been doing probably interviews. As soon as they finish a game, just like as soon as they release a console, they're literally working on the next one immediately. Work's being done on it. And so I gotta imagine at the very least after Odyssey was released, they're in the concept stage of what the next Mario is going to be. I just feel like they've had so long to think about this next Mario.
No doubt. And you hit the nail on the head with the ending sequence. I don't know that I've ever smiled so hard. I've said it so many times on this show. I don't know that I've ever smiled so hard at a video game before. Like Odyssey was, and it still is to this day. I'm running around in one of the Mario motors. Mario's got his cap on backwards, like I'm wearing mine right now, and running around in the Mario Motors stuff, which is just, I like it. There's so much there. There's so much there. Did you miss power-ups? Fire Flower, Superstar, the power-ups that were in Galaxy?
I didn't miss them. And I think the reason why is probably because of the transformations.
Got it. Okay.
With Cappy, I think that helped kind of bridge it. The fact that we didn't have power-ups.
Yeah.
I mean, even you saying it now, my first immediate thought was like, yeah, you know, I haven't even thought of that. The fact that we didn't have power-ups. I mean, I'm aware of that, but it's just not something I really even gave thought to because everything was just so much fun. There's so much going on. I didn't feel like it was missing anything.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. The thing that throughout my childhood, power-ups defined Mario games for me. Right? I didn't even play 64 until like the Wii U. Mario 64. Oh. I went over to a buddy's house and I saw him throwing Bowser off and I was like, that's the final boss. Did not knowing that you do it multiple times. And I was like, well, I guess I don't need to play this, I guess. So, and so it's not something and I loved Yoshi and the hype that was around World when it came out and everything that like, I just was like, I don't remember now if I was like, this is not my Mario. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that was but I think it was more of a like, I was far more interested in multiplayer games also. Like the first two games I bought were Mario Kart and GoldenEye.
Oh yeah.
And so it wasn't until like I did some Shadows of the Empire and then some Turok 2, and there was obviously single player aspects, but Turok 2 had multiplayer. And but I remember Ocarina being the like I was like, oh. And honestly, after playing Ocarina, I'm like, why didn't I go back and play 64? Mario 64. I really, really should have.
64 was so special for me. And all the games you mentioned, I have memories of. I picked up Shadows of the Empire the day it came out. Had it pre-ordered actually at Toys R Us.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I think when the whole conversation came up about video games costing $70 now, there's this whole debate I'm sure you saw on the internet where some of the old heads like us were like, hey, there were games that cost like $80 back in the day. And everyone's like, there's no way. It's like, no, really. Like Shadows of the Empire was $79.99 at Toys R Us. Doom 64 was $84.99.
Yeah.
And that's in US dollars. That's here in Arizona. That's how much it cost.
Yeah.
And it's wild to think that, but it's the truth. But to stay on subject, Shadows of the Empire. Absolutely love that game. I remember seeing the footage for it. Nintendo Power had put out a video to promote the Nintendo 64. Probably about 3 months, maybe longer, but at least 3 months before the 64 came out. And I cannot tell you how many times that video got played on my TV. Just pouring over the graphics. I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
Like I cannot believe we're getting
the Hoth battle.
Yeah. So cool. And I'm sure if anyone plays it today, they're probably gonna be like, man, this game is not good.
Yeah.
But it was very special. And Turok, I remember playing the first one. Of course, my cousin bought that one at Toys R Us. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. First game that used the expansion pack. A lot of great memories. But Ocarina of Time, man, I missed a week of school for that.
I love it.
I did. And I played sick. My mom knows. She knows about that. I mean, now as an adult. She would hide the controllers when she'd leave for work.
Yeah.
She'd take both the 64 controllers because, of course, since you're sick, you need to rest. So I'm going to take these. It's okay. And after she'd leave, I'd go search the room and figure out where they were. Obviously, I'm only taking one of them. Then you take a mental snapshot of exactly how the wire is wound up on the controller. So you replicate that when you put it back.
Oh,
and
yes.
then you always got to put it back like at least 30 minutes before mom comes home. Because my mom will check, she'll like literally put her hand on the 64 to make sure it's like not hot. She'd go that far. So, and then she'd come home and be like, hey, I'm back home. How are you feeling? Do you want to play, some video games? Would that help? Like, yeah, I'd really like to. And then I'd play some more. So yeah, I missed a whole week of school and I beat it.
Amazing.
In that week.
And
I came back to school on Monday. Everyone's like, dude, people thought you were dead, man. Are you okay? I'm like, better than ever. I just beat Zelda. Yeah, it was great. So fond memories during that era, and there's so many games, but I'd be remiss to not mention the wrestling games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was a huge wrestling fan during that time with, of course, WCW and WWF at the time, and the NWO and DX, Stone Cold, all of that, man. It was so much fun. And I remember renting WCW versus NWO World Tour. That was the first one. Loved it. Then Revenge came out, took it to the next level.
Oh, yes.
Played that a ton. Yeah, and then we had WrestleMania 2000, and then No Mercy, which everyone says that No Mercy is pretty much the GOAT, and I get that. I think all three are great.
Same.
Revenge, WrestleMania, and No Mercy. World Tour set the stage for it. But man, it's just like, how is it 2024 and those are still the best wrestling games ever?
Yep. Yeah, I played so much Revenge that the other two, although I have them and I thought they were great, there was something about the magic of Revenge. I don't know what it was, but
okay.
I still look back on that. I think maybe because I played it so much longer, maybe.
Yeah.
And I just had, and I was not I've never been a huge wrestling fan, but I loved Bill Goldberg, like as terrible of a wrestler as he was. And, I just loved his whole shtick. And so I would go down go down to the history books and what, I think I remember buying VHS of his highlights and stuff like that, just because.
Oh yeah.
It would also introduce me to other wrestlers, because I didn't have where I grew up out in the sticks, so we didn't have cable and stuff like that. So to watch wrestling was kind of rare. So I had to kind of go back and piece together who's Raven and who's this. I can't remember his name, but he had a skull mask and he was kind of a taller guy with long hair.
What, Kane?
No. This was the WCW versus NWO Revenge. And his older costumes, he had green and black rib cage with a mask on, if I remember correctly, and then it kind of evolved over time. He ended up looking a lot like Sting, but I'd have to fire up the game to even see. But just to try to learn about some of the history of some of these where they came from, what their stories were. I loved it. Yeah.
I had so much fun with it. And I will agree with you that for some reason, and that's why I said everyone says that No Mercy is the GOAT when it comes to N64 wrestling games. But for me, for some reason, the one that always stands out is Revenge. And yeah, maybe it is because we played it so much more than WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy, but Revenge is just so special. That game got played so much. I absolutely love it. I love it to this day. I mean, I have my launch 64 is modded now to run component cables. And I picked up the HD Retrovision component cables, and then I run that through my RetroTink 5X. So I mean, I'm trying over here, man. I'm trying to get the best picture possible out of my 64 until Analog finally releases their analog 3D 4K Nintendo 64, and then I'll be picking that up, and probably won't need to use that anymore. But yeah, I just love the 64, man.
Yeah, such good times. Such good times. Well, we went way off. Back to Switch after Odyssey. What's number 2 on the list?
So number 2 is going to have 2 games, and I'm sure you know which ones they are. This is the only selection that has 2 games, okay? But that's the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Fair.
And I grouped them together because a lot of people ask, which one do you think's better? What is better? Which one's your favorite? You may not, there may be reasons why you choose one or the other. And ultimately, I love them both. And you could say I love them both equally. And they both have different kind of vibes to them. Obviously, different gameplay mechanics. Tears of the Kingdom, the gameplay mechanics changed drastically. And there was a lot to learn there. But it made for a great time because, I mean, we just saw this formula being applied to Echoes of Wisdom in many ways. In that you have these puzzles and there's numerous ways to solve them. It's unique to the player. And I love that. And that's something I want to see, continued forward with the Zelda franchise. And I think we will. I think proof of it is Echoes of Wisdom. The fact that idea made its way to a 2D top-down Zelda, I think it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love these games. Playing Breath of the Wild was very special. The amount of hours I put into that game, I don't know. There was a screenshot. There was a really high resolution screenshot somewhere on the internet that had a picture of the map, right? And I saved it. I emailed FedEx Kinko's, and I had it printed on I think a 16 by 20 poster.
Wow.
So I had a map. I made myself a map because I'm like, dude, I need to mark these shrines, right? And figure out like kind of what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And have a better way of attacking this.
Very old school. Because remember, they used to come with a map, right?
Yeah, they did. And that was a big reason why I did it. Because I'm like, this is going to be fun, right? And so I had a map and I had my Sharpie. And I'd mark the shrines on the map. And I'd mark like areas where I know I needed to go. And I know I could have done this in the game. But at the same time, I didn't want to pause the game every time.
Mm-hmm.
Put a marker on it and unpause it. I thought this would be fun. And it actually was. It was really fun. And for me, something as small as that really made the game memorable because I don't know if I'll ever do that again.
Sure, yeah.
But I decided to do it and it ended up being really fun. And I think I still have the map somewhere with the game. I might have folded it up and put it inside, but that was really special. I think going from like Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild and getting rid of the waggle controls, the motion controls.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can still use them in Breath of the Wild, and ultimately that was a Wii U game. But it'll never be remembered as a Wii U game.
No.
Nope. And it lost its unique Wii U functionality. They removed that because they didn't want people to think that the Wii U was the superior version.
Yeah. Which
is a very interesting interview. But for me, that was really special to have the first open world Zelda. Right? I think that's ultimately what we get down to is that this is an open world Zelda. You can attack it however you want. You can go anywhere on the map. It reminded me of how I felt when I played the first Zelda on NES. And you're just exploring.
Yep.
You're exploring that map. You're checking things out. We didn't know back then that, at least initially, that in order to go to this dungeon, you needed this item. And so on and so forth. And I think with Breath of the Wild, the fact that that didn't matter anymore was cool.
Just go where you want.
Yeah, and I like the linear Zeldas. Like, I like the linear 3D Zeldas. I do. But if I had to choose one direction when it came to, hey, we can either be linear or we could be open world, I got to go open world. I would say, can we borrow some stuff from the 3D Zeldas, though?
For sure. Yep.
I love the dungeons in the 3D Zeldas.
Yeah.
You know, there's that's a whole discussion about how to build that kind of the ultimate Zelda going forward. And I'm sure that's what we're going to see on Switch too. Is, hey, we did the linear. We did the open world. How can we make it the best of both now?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure Nintendo's here, and that's what fans want.
Yeah, and Tears got awfully close.
Did.
Like adding like dungeons and bosses that weren't just blights. They were just kind of like, that's like you mentioned Odyssey, the Brutals. I was not a huge fan of the Brutals, and the blights I was not a huge fan of either. Like those were the like my two main gripes with those games. As much as I love them, I'm just like those bosses I felt were a little on the weak side.
Yeah, I agree totally, and I love the bosses that are huge screen filling bosses, the ones
Yes.
we've grown up with, right?
Right. Yeah.
Bosses, it's always exciting to finally get the boss key and get into the final room where the boss is and just see what kind of form it takes.
Right.
And yeah, I thought that was missing a little bit, right? In Breath of the Wild for sure. But those two games really special because you went open world, and then obviously with the sequel, you really changed the way you play and the way you solve puzzles. And they did something that I didn't think was possible for us to solve the riddle, solve the puzzle, but we can all do it in different ways.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That was special. I live streamed that game on my channel, and it was just so interesting seeing what people said to do in chat and then what I was thinking. And everything I read and everything I thought, none of it was the same.
Mm-hmm.
We all had different ideas. I'm like, this is really cool. This feels like a community effort almost in the way that we can attack this game. So yeah, no doubt we knew Zelda was probably going to be there, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. What's number 3?
So number 3, I think it might be interesting, but I don't think it would be to you. And that is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Of course.
Yeah, and look, hey, I bought the game. I bought the game the day it came out on Wii U. My girlfriend and I at the time, we played that game so much, trying to get all 3 stars.
Yep.
On each circuit.
Yep.
Yeah. Try to unlock everything, get the coins to unlock all the wheels, all the carts, all the gliders. I had so much fun with it. And I remember thinking at that time is like, wow, man, I've played all the Mario Karts so much throughout my life. All of them. And this, to me, is by far the best one. And that's what I walked away thinking on the Wii U, okay? Is that this is by far the best one. And I have like specific memories about each one, like Mario Kart 64. I think that had the best battle mode.
Yep. I would
Especially
agree.
the Block Fortress. The Block Fortress was so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
DS may have given it a run for its money but that was a few years down the road.
Yep. And Double Dash was cool. It just didn't feel that fast, and that bothered me. It never felt like I was going fast in that game. But I still enjoyed it. I liked the mechanic, of course, of having 2 racers. But when it got announced for Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, thinking like, of course I own the game and I still have my Wii U, but I'm going to pick it up. This will be fun. The graphics are going to be enhanced a little bit, and you can play it portably. And, we can play it online. Yeah, I'll get it. Like, all of this sounds worth it to me, right? But then, the way this game was supported over the entire console lifespan of the Switch, the amount of, and I'm not just talking about the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about all the updates, too. So many updates, so many refinements, so much tweaking to get it perfect.
Yeah.
But then you go and you do the DLC booster pass, giving us 48 new tracks. Mind blowing. Because to me, that's like, oh my God. It's almost like we're getting a second Mario Kart in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Absolutely.
Equivalency. Like you're getting 48 tracks, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking, wait, so we got 96 tracks?
Yeah.
In a Mario Kart game. That's crazy to think. It in itself. And all the characters and all the different parts, carts, the wheels, the gliders, all that is so cool. But
adding
the
Link
96
stuff along the
tracks-
way. Like,
yeah. And it gets you, I mean, it gets me thinking, right? What direction are we going next? And again, like we talked about with Odyssey, came out in 2017. Haven't got a new one since. To me, I look at Mario Kart 8. This is a 2014 Wii U game
yeah.
that had a team work on, because Nintendo said they were having a team working on the new Mario Kart. They were splitting the team. Some of them are working on the new, and the other part of the team is working on the booster pass. So we know, without them even telling us, we know that the new Mario Kart's been cooking for years. I mean, by the time it comes out, which my prediction is we will get it next year, 11 years.
Yeah. Launch title or no?
I go back and forth on it. Here's the thing. I think we're either going to get a 3D Mario at launch or a Mario Kart. One is going to be launch. One is going to be big holiday title.
Mm-hmm. Is it
Possibly-
cross? Is it cross gen?
I think no. I don't think Mario Kart will be. Because I think this gives how many is it sold, like 62 or 3 million
Yes.
units?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a great way to get 60 million people to come over to Switch to Ultimate.
Still in the top 10 week after
Yeah.
week.
Week after week. I see the numbers. I see Paul Gale posting them on Twitter. I'm just like, mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's always in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's unlike anything I've seen before. But I think it's so deserved. And the excitement around each new cup coming out in that DLC booster pass, like I was really looking forward to each one coming out. I think I live streamed each one. And I was there like waiting for the download to come in and just hyped for it.
And they did the same thing with Smash. It was such an event every time. And so I hope they really paid attention to those two things going forward, and that we see that moving forward, that like, support these games for a long time, because we're all here for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And this is why I think Mario Kart is coming out year one, is that Nintendo saw, and again, I don't think this was like so much the long-term plan, okay? I do think that Nintendo was planning on giving us a Mario Kart, a new one, on Switch. Initially, that was the plan.
Oh, for sure.
But it got scrapped because this is selling like hotcakes. What if we continue to invest in this title, and we continue to support it, and we put new tracks on it, and give the other team extra time to just make something even better than this for the next console? Yeah. And that's obviously what we ended up getting, but I think Nintendo unintentionally saw what an evergreen Mario Kart could do for Switch by having a Mario Kart, because it came out in April, right? April 2017, a month after.
Yep.
So they saw what happened. I mean, good God, this is absolutely wild how much it sold. And so I think you have to do that again, right? Why wouldn't you?
I can give you
How long has it been since
I can
the
give you
booster
one
pass?
one reason, and it would
Let's hear
be Mario Kart 8 Complete or HD, and then it's all 96 tracks, enhanced for the Switch 2, cross-play, and then the new one is a couple years out, which I really hope is not the case, but I would be very, very sad.
Okay, so I am going to talk about that a little bit, but not right now, and I'll tell you why, because it's going to link back. Now, Wave 6, it was December 2023, right? That the last one came out. Okay. So I think there's been a long enough gap there. Currently, there's a bundle for the Switch with Mario Kart, which we have it every year.
2 bundles.
Yeah, but it comes with the NSO membership, which comes with, of course, all the DLC. So in a way, they're giving you like the complete version right now, if you buy one. But of course, it's not on cartridge, and you have to have that membership.
Yeah.
So is there an opportunity, right, for them to release the complete version at retail? I mean, absolutely. Of course there is.
And they almost did in Japan. You can get up to Wave 5 on the cart.
Yeah. And they do that. Like I have Breath of the Wild, the Japanese version as well, with all the DLC included on the cart.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I don't know why they don't do that here. But yeah, it's definitely a thing in Japan. And I was watching Japan as well. And I'm like, well, why didn't they get Wave 6? But then you think about it. Could very well be a reason why they didn't get Wave 6. Because a complete version is coming at some point, which would lend more sense to Switch 2 complete version.
Well, it's a whole other conversation about when do they do a player's choice kind of thing.
I mean, I'd love to see that be brought back.
As to see Switch as the Switch 2 is coming in and the Switch 2 is going out, let's deeply discount all of our biggest titles so that, you know, people can complete their collections and jump into these titles at a discounted price.
Yeah, especially with the rumor, and I believe it to of course be true, that the Switch 2 will be backwards compatible. I completely believe that. I think what's up for debate and speculation for me is if there's going to be any sort of enhancements with the DLSS. And I'm sure if there is going to be, it of course would be on a game-by-game, case-by-case basis, because the DLSS isn't going to just blanket make games better. It's going to have to be coded to do that. They're going to have to add that into the actual original game to take advantage of that. But I do wonder if that's going to be a big focus.
Yeah.
I hope so. Okay, let's go into the next one.
Number 4.
And so this is where I said I would talk a little bit more about that theory. And I'm sure you know what it is, but it's Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Sure.
Okay. And they really lived up. Sakurai really lived up to that Ultimate name. My God. I can't believe just how much content is in this game, the amount of characters. And again, you mentioned how exciting it was for the new reveals, and it totally was. Anytime we got a direct or Nintendo put out a tweet about Smash invitations coming out and the speculation over who's it going to be, who are they going to add, what character could they get from what third party, right? And of course, I remember when that mural was when it hit the web as a rumor, that Smash Brothers mural with all the characters.
Yeah.
And I remember people that saw, I think Banjo was in that one, that mural.
Okay.
And everyone's like, dude, there's no way.
That's Banjo right. People used to put up fake ones, or I remember now. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. And of course, Banjo being owned now by Microsoft, through Rare, everyone's like, there's no way. There's no way this is real. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm thinking, this could be real.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft loves Nintendo. They do. They respect the heck out of them. I think any console manufacturer, any developer, you have to respect them. You have to respect what they've done. Because it's kind of like they paved the way in a lot of ways for where we're at today with a lot of the innovations. And you could even just go back to the beginning and be like, they saved video games in the US from the crash.
Yeah.
They did a lot of things right. And so I think about that. And with Smash Ultimate, it's like, who can't we get if we can get Banjo? Then we got Castlevania. We got Simon Belmont. We got Richter.
Yep.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, being a long time Castlevania fan since the originals on NES, I'm like, this is crazy. Then we get Dragon Quest in there. It's like, what? Final Fantasy's in there. Cloud and Sephiroth. The game that we didn't get.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo chose to go the cartridge route.
Right. Yep.
But here they are somehow. The two biggest characters in that game in Final Fantasy VII. Somehow here they are in Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is mind-blowing. And then Kingdom Hearts. It's like, what? Tekken, Minecraft, Street Fighter, Fatal Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Persona. It's like, this is just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I was clambering for Mithra and Pyra before the game launched.
Oh. Wow.
Or some variation of Rex or something along those lines, like some kind of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 representation, because I had fallen in love with that game.
Yeah.
Kind of the first RPG that their JRPG that like outside of Pokemon that I was like, yo, I love, it ignited my love for JRPGs. The hardest thing for me is just trying to invest the time into them, because it's just like,
I know
it's so long, but I couldn't put 2 down and couldn't wait. I mean, just hoped and hoped. It bothers me that they're so good in the game, because when you play with them, it's like, oh, okay, you're picking and it's like, but I genuinely like these characters. They're the only 2 characters I have in Elite Smash also.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, for me, when I think about Ultimate, I think about how much it lives up to that name and exceeds it.
Mm-hmm.
But another part of me really says, how can you top this? And I hear some people saying, maybe they do a reboot and start from the beginning, right? But why? Why? This is amazing. This is peak.
Mm-hmm.
Why reboot when you're at peak? Are you afraid to fall from the peak? Is the question. Because that's usually why you reboot, is because you hit the peak and you don't think you can go any higher, so we start from scratch again. I don't know. I don't want to. Personally, I don't want to see that. If that's how if that is hypothetically how Nintendo feels, I would much rather say, hey, can you give us Smash Ultimate HD? Whatever you want to call it. Can you give us a Super Ultimate version? I mean, look, Capcom's done it 500 times.
Yep.
Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, 2 Turbo, Championship Edition, so on and so forth.
No, they could just call it Smash Bros. Ultimate Rollback and give it that rollback netcode so that the online is actually good, and
yeah,
I wouldn't need anything else. But we're talking about the company that just gave us 48 new tracks on Mario Kart. So why not release Ultimate again, fix the netcode, and continue, add first party characters, add as many characters as you can, the Ultimate HD, and then continue with the Fighter Pass Like, and that's easier on Sakurai. Like that poor guy, like, like
He's a workhorse.
he is.
I
And
respect
like
him.
there's not many things that I would say let the developer George Lucas their game. This is one of them.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, he put his heart and soul into this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clear. It's evident. But yeah, when you talk about how can you top this, I think, why do we have to top it? Like we are at the peak.
Yep.
Can we build now on the peak? Can we stay there and continue to build right there? And I think we can with what you just said. Apply the booster pass Mario Kart theory to this. Give us more first party characters. But then with the third parties, we all talk about Switch 2, and I've talked about this a lot, about how we expect so many third parties to come over that weren't part of Switch 1. And they're going to come over in bigger droves. But obviously a great way to ensure 100% that a third party game makes it to Switch 2 is by signing a deal with said developer to have them in Smash.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get your character in Smash. You bring this over. Hey, Microsoft, we know that you are considering putting your games everywhere. Most likely will. Indiana Jones is coming to PS5 early next year.
We know that their biggest franchise just went to Unreal 5, and that runs on current Switches.
Yep.
Right? I mean, look at Fortnite. And so
yeah.
I think it's a very real possibility we see the Halo Combat Evolved remake, if that's what it ends up being, on Switch.
That's exactly where I was going with this too.
Yeah.
Is Halo.
Mm-hmm.
Halo. Hey, we can get Master Chief in the game.
Bro.
Bring us the Halo collection on Switch 2.
All I wanted is Challenger approaches and you hear the whistle of a sticky grenade fire up and then stick right to Mario's nose.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Chief enters the fight. You know what I mean? Just...
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. It'd be a great way. But I think about that. I mean, let's go to the other side too. Think about this. And I'm just thinking about it now. I mean, we're getting Lego Horizon Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say Aloy can't make her way into Smash Brothers?
Kratos?
If hey, you wanna bring over Horizon remake to Switch 2? You want to bring over Forbidden West to Switch 2? Mm-hmm. We'll get Aloy in the game. And yeah, Kratos. I love God of War. Love the games.
Yeah.
I think the sky's the limit because it's like everybody wins here.
Mm-hmm.
Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, the consumer. Everybody wins. Obviously, the consumer experience is obvious how we win, but it's like your brand, your IP that makes its way into Smash Brothers is going to see an increase in sales. There's no way it won't.
And you can't tell me that all of us nerds would not love to see Mario and Astro Bot duke it out in Smash.
Yeah. Who else even I think you got to get was it Toys for Bob?
Yes.
Activision.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Toys for Bob. You got to get Crash Bandicoot in there.
Of course, with the Mega Horn.
With the Mega Horn. He's got to fight with the Mega Horn. How great would that be?
Yeah.
Because we all remember that. And obviously that would make the older gamers like us, that would be special for all of us to have Crash in there. And so just naming some characters, you and I, off the top of our head. I'm not doing a deep dive here, neither are you, but this is just proof to me that you can continue to build on this. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
More characters, more arenas to fight in, more courses, a lot more. What else do you have to build on? I think the engine's there. You know what I mean? That the actual engine is there. You got to fix the online. Maybe a subspace mode.
Yep. There you go. Yeah.
Because that was fun.
Yeah, it's like you said, there's no reason to fix what's not broken. Just add to this. Like, just add to it at this point. And not that people sometimes hate this term, but throw Battle Pass on it. Like, I want a reason to play Smash more than just I want to continue. Let's start doing costumes. You know, let's start adding costumes to these characters. Let's add cosmetics. Like,
I would. I am not a fan of battle passes.
Yep.
But I would for this.
Mm-hmm.
I would for this. I would wholeheartedly, because this is as good as it gets, right? As a Nintendo fan, as a Smash Brothers fan, we've all for people who've played all the Smash Brothers, this is as good as it gets.
Right.
And why try and rewrite it? Just give us more of the same. And I don't know if that's going to be the motto of Switch 2.
Yeah.
Give us more of the same, but better, but improved, Nintendo to Super Nintendo.
Yeah. But
better. Because this will be an even bigger jump. I was talking with someone about that this morning. We're going from 2015 technology. That the Tegra X1 came out. It released in the first half of 2015. And that, of course, that's the chip in the Switch. By the time Switch 2 comes out, that is 10-year-old technology. This is going to be a huge jump.
Massive. Yeah. Yeah, no question. No question. Okay. Number
All
one.
right.
Or not number one, but number, the last one.
So, obviously, there's so many games, right? But I wanted to keep it, again, Nintendo exclusive. And this one's on here because this was one of my it still is one of my absolute favorite games. And I was so shocked. This was probably one of the most genuine surprises of my life when it comes to video games when this game was announced. I just could not believe it. And that's Super Mario RPG.
Okay.
The remake. I absolutely adore this game on Super Nintendo. Huge fan.
See the box behind you.
Yeah. It came out a few months before the 64. Came out, I think, in May 96.
Mm-hmm.
Remember renting it at Blockbuster, seeing the box art, and just thinking, like, what is this?
Yeah.
And that was I had played like Final Fantasy as a kid on NES, but didn't really know what I was doing. We played Earthbound, of course, when that came out. I love Earthbound, but this felt like the introduction I needed at that age to RPGs, to then really understand how everything works. This turn-based combat. And again, always, who better to teach than Mario? But it was really at that point where I'm like, okay, I really grasp this now. Now I'm going to go back and play Earthbound and Final Fantasy 2 and 3
Okay.
on the SNES. I had played games with active battle like Secret of Mana and loved them. But the turn-based, I just had a hard time.
Same, man.
Yeah. And Mario RPG fixed all of that, right? I think for me, the thing that is probably most memorable is the story and the characters. The characters in Mario RPG. Because I played all the Mario and Luigi games. when they came out, I played all of them. I'm super hyped for Brothership. I played all the Paper Marios. And I still go back to Mario RPG's characters. Like, I'll never forget Gino and Mallow.
Yeah.
Just never will. Right? And the fact that you have Bowser that joins your party was just mind-blowing back then, right?
For
'Cause
sure,
it's like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Bowser? This is crazy.
Well, and after
was
playing
so
through
cool.
this game, the remake, because I didn't beat it prior to that, I had a friend who I would borrow it from periodically, but he loved it so much he wouldn't let me keep it for long periods of time. And so, after playing through it on Switch, I understand the hype for Gino and Smash. Like, it makes sense now.
Yeah. And of course, Gino's a character I've talked about for a long time, hoping that maybe we could get him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a spirit in Smash, right?
Right.
Is he a spirit or not? He's not a trophy, he's a spirit, if I recall.
I believe so. And didn't they give him a Mii costume?
Yeah, they did. They came so close.
Right.
And all I could think is like, you guys holding out for the next Smash, I hope.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with. Just get him in there, you know? But I was shocked to see this. I really was. Especially so late in the Switch's life cycle. Because, you know, last year, everyone kind of thought that Tears of the Kingdom might be the last big Switch title before Switch 2 comes out. And then obviously we had that Nintendo Direct over the summer. And they're like, hey, Pikmin 4 is coming out, and Super Mario Wonder, and Super Mario RPG. You're like, whoa, okay. I mean, yeah. I'm really excited for Switch 2, but I will gladly take this. I'm very happy about this. So I just think, man, it's just really interesting that we got this. And I always wonder, is there any chance we can get a sequel? An actual Super Mario RPG 2? Because Nintendo and Square are really...
They're really tight.
They're really tight now. And, you know, Square, they're always very open about how their games don't hit their sales targets. And their internal sales targets. I mean, I think this would knock it out of the park. Super Mario RPG 2.
And the assets are there now. And I think we're going to see, I think Brothership is going to, I've been doing a deep dive into the previews. I have a video coming out probably tomorrow. And it, like, I can't wait for this game. And that hype is because of RPG. I haven't played the other games in the series. But this feels like it's going to really scratch that itch, especially because of how bizarre the characters are. Like, they're all plugins that you can put like lights into. They have like light sockets and stuff. Like, it's just a very, like, a water and electricity is so strange, so bizarre. But like that, I mean, you know, well, look at Mallow, look at Gino. Like there's just that game is chock full of just very oddball characters. And then this just looks like a cartoon. Being able to, you know, the Luigi logic. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he like turns Mario and him into a UFO. You know, like I
saw your short on it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I hope that Square gets the opportunity to make Super Mario RPG 2 like a direct sequel, and you know, I would love it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the assets are there, and I think it makes financial sense, right? That once you create an engine and the assets, if you can reuse them, like you should, and to an extent, you look at Link's Awakening remake and then Echoes of Wisdom.
Yep.
It's easy to see.
I am very much of the mind. I have a video I'm working on. I think Wonder 2 is a very real possibility with the Koopa Kids.
Yeah, we got to bring them back.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Well, and if you look at the history, like they were in 3, they were in 4, Bowser Jr. was in New. Koopalings were in New Super Mario Bros. 2 and Wii. And then they weren't here for a little bit, and then they, you know, so
That's
So-
true.
so there's-
Timeline wise, it makes sense.
there's kind of a history there of them getting put in, getting taken out, you know, that kind of thing.
I'd love to see it. It'll be very interesting. Do you think that would be a Switch 2 title?
Oh yeah, I think it'll be an early Switch 2 title.
I mean, I'd love to see it happen, man.
I don't know that it'll be I don't know that it will necessarily will see unless they decide to try to finish what Pop started in the first Wonder game and wreak havoc again, you know? And I don't know why, but I would love to see them lean into like a mech mechanic similar to like Kirby Robo Planet, you know, or Planet Robo, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Robobot, I think is what it's called.
Yep.
Where like they are because they have the clown car. I want to see that clown car. I honestly, it's such an 80s kid thing, but I would love to see all of them like Mighty Morphin Power Ranger or Voltron, the clown cars, so that
Yeah.
the final boss is all of them together. Like,
Yeah, to build one ultimate.
uh-huh.
That would
yeah.
be cool. That's a good idea. I like that.
I would love it.
I mean, if anyone could do it, it would be Nintendo.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that's too far fetched. It's not an idea I would have thought of. But now that you say it, I'm quick to tell you that that's a good idea. That would be really cool. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, this has been awesome. I kept you way longer than I anticipated. I'm so sorry. I think we could probably end up going for hours and not even realize it.
Yeah, I think we could. But the time for me flew by fast. There was a lot of good stuff to talk about, and yeah, I mean, God, again, there's just so many topics we could jump into. So
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Great
we'll have to we'll get a part 2 and a part 3 down the road for sure. So, again, let people know where they can connect with you.
yeah, so you can find me on YouTube at Thunder Stash Gaming, and again on my channel, I review both new and retro games. Of course, this is a super busy time of the year for all of us for a variety of reasons. Holidays coming up. You know, all the sports are on TV now. We got football, we got baseball playoffs coming up, got the NBA season. So it's an exciting time, but for us who cover the video games, this is a crazy time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember going into the year, a lot of people were like, I don't know how 2024 is going to be, you know, outside of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in
Right.
February.
Yeah.
What do we really got? And it's like I look at my dry erase board with all my games on there that I have upcoming for reviews, and just looking at from September 26th, which was Echoes of Wisdom, to December 9th,
Mhm.
which is Indiana Jones. The amount of games coming out is nuts.
Right. Yeah.
Like the games that I want to play
Mhm.
is like 20 plus.
Wow.
And I was like, good Lord. So
Good luck.
yeah, thank you. So I'll be super busy. I am working on a review for a game that just was announced physically through Limited Run Games, but the game came out 4 years ago, and it's on Switch, on PS5, and it's also on Steam, but of course physically on Switch and PS5, and that's called Pumpkin Jack. And so I'll be posting that review either today or tomorrow. And it's a 3D action platformer. If you grew up playing these, you know, in the 90s, 2000s, there's a lot to love here, but very interesting game. And with Halloween right around the corner, I thought, hey, this would be a great time to play this. I've never played it. And so I'm about to beat it, and I will say I'm having a very good time. So tune in for that review. But outside of that, man, there's going to be a lot going on that channel with video game reviews. And then, of course, every Wednesday, we have the Nintendo Byte podcast. I'm a co-host on there. And of course, that's going to be busy too, because Switch 2, as we all know, it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
It could be any day now. I wake up every morning at
Just
4
wondering.
o'clock.
Yep.
Every morning I wake up at 4, but the first thing I do, I don't like doing this. I don't like getting on my phone when I wake up because then you get stuck. But I do check Twitter because I got to see.
Yep.
Is today the day?
Is today the day? Is it trending? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And guys, thank you for listening and or watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.